Humans? Scrugger whispered, as Perm, the old landlord of the Rust Bucket, the last pub before the Wastes, went back to his business. He turned to the guy next to him, a young Harlock sailor, probably on his first tour. Have you heard the stories? Although the pub was a pretty noisy place, even more so as 2 passenger liners had docked earlier this shift, the word spread quickly, and in a matter of minutes it seemed, everywhere you looked you saw frightened faces, tentacles trembling with excitement, and sprocklings twirling in awe. And all the conversations had only one topic: humans. Everyone had a story to tell. Some frightening, some gritty and full of violence, many of them contradicting each other. Have you heard about the Battle of Emkerk 4? They are all pirates, I tell you. They only eat cavaders. Actually quite primitive. Even know where Emkerk 4 is? How do you even pronounce millions of years ahead? Hey, barkeep, 2 more of this stuff. Only old Sprauk, contemplatively stroking his twigs, leaned back in his chair, smiling. After some time, the atmosphere changed, developed some sort of pattern. Another name came up more and more: Sprauk. People were exchanging glances, and the noise slowly died down. Finally, someone plucked up his courage and went over to the old man's table. Mr. Sprauk, sir? A huge, tentacled Koloi stuttered. We talked a bit, and it seems... they said you were the only one in here who actually met a human, and lived. Another guest added in the loud, heavy mechanized voice of an outdated translator device. Then silence. Sprauk just sat there smiling. Just when the Koloi attempted to say something else, the old man's smile widened. I heard you the first time, boy. Though technically you probably lived longer than I did, so I shouldn't call you boy, I guess. Anyway, sit down. He raised his voice. I will tell you about humans. Yes. Most of your stories are utter bullshit, he began, an opening met with some objection from certain parts of the sailor crowd. But humans are special, yes, and you should consider yourself very lucky to meet some tonight. Most people, sadly, never do, and they don't even know what they're missing. More objecting, murmuring, shifting of chairs. But that's not too surprising, as they're a species from deep within the Wastes, a place some of you rightfully call barbaric. Or maybe even from beyond, who knows? I certainly don't. He was quiet for a while. They're not special in any way you described. They're not especially strong and not especially weak. They're not more brutal or more peaceful than most species. They're not incredibly ugly, at least if you saw 100 different species in your lifetime like I did. They're rather primitive, I give you that. Comes with living in the wastes, I guess. Are they a young species or an old one? I don't know that. No, they're not special in those regards. Again, he fell silent. But what? It was the young Harlock who had grown impatient, but was quickly silenced. Have any of you heard of the Singers' War of Morgahog 4? Sprauk continued. No? It's a contest held there every local year, and everyone, regardless of species or distance, can participate. Morgahog 4 lies deep within the wastes, almost on the other end. And the humans? They won it, every year since they started taking part. Their government even wanted to prohibit their artists from taking part, because they thought they might upset their neighbours. But it was met with an outrage. Not mainly by human artists, but the other species of the contest. So much do they love and honour the human singing. Many artists of other species have tried to imitate the humans, but none has ever succeeded at doing what they do. They made 3rd place, or sometimes even 2nd, but they never won. The murmuring had constantly grown louder as he had spoken. Skepticism and disbelief spread. Sprauk waited a while until silence had returned. He smiled musingly. You see, it's not their vocal range. The Lenigans are much better at that, nor their volume. That's the shinobi. The Portamen are more precise and the Gostani more complex, but the humans still win every single year." The people who had still been listening faithfully up to this point now also seemed to grow weary of the old man's fairy tales. People turned back to their old conversations and the background noise began to set in again. Some were still listening, though. "Oh, you're a lucky lot. Yes, you are. I went to the Singers' War as often as I could, but it's far. And now I'm too old to be a sailor and I don't have the money for passage. You see. Ha! Hear what I mean?" Then Sprague turned back to his glass, a musing glare again. All the while the old man had been talking, Perm had been busy setting up a table with uniform chairs and some sort of refreshments no one in the room had ever seen before. Of course, they all bore a semblance to one or the other thing people already knew. The talking and drinking went on for some time, but the earlier excitement was soon forgotten, and other topics became more important again. And then the humans arrived. Again, silence swept through the room. The newcomers had all the attention. They looked around and greeted their audience in a terrible dialect of Trader's Basic. "Don't these primitives have translators?" someone asked in a whisper. They weren't really impressive at all. Not especially weak-looking, but nothing special. At least in this point the old fool had been right. The humans sat down and started enjoying their refreshments. Then Landlord strolled over and talked to them in their language. They seemed surprised and happy about that and listened to him telling them some story. Or did he ask them a question? When Perm had finished, the humans appeared to be confused, but also slightly amused and looked at each other. Then they said something, and the old landlord was now most certainly very excited. And then they started singing. All the talking had stopped now. First one human had started, and then all of them had set in. And everyone listened in awe, and they understood. They understood what Spork had meant because, even though no one except Perm, and maybe the old man, knew the words, they understood the song. Every single verse. They felt the emotions, and they knew. They all felt the anger and the sadness, the feeling of being away from home on some strange planet, or in the depths of space, and they knew. They knew they had to go out again. Another tour. There was always another tour. The song sounded through the silence, and it touched them, like never a song before did. And every single one would have told you afterwards that he understood the words. But then, when you asked him, couldn't write them down. It was truly a night they would never forget. And then the next time began. "Once more, boys. Once more. Go to sea. Once more."